And I invite Professor Vivek Benegal will be talking about creativity and neurosciences, and one of the most creative lectures after both the lectures will be really eye-opening. So will not take much time.
Thank
Vivek.
you, OP. Shantala, that was a masterful talk. Thank you so much. I actually planned to talk about the arts in the context of some of the work that we do, which is basically tracking how human brains grow from before birth into adulthood and senescence. But something that Dr. Vinay said sent me on a different track. And we were basically talking about some of the brittleness that we find in young people, and the difficulty that a lot of us, young and old, have of being able to endure boredom, and the loss of the ability to use boredom as a creative force. And so today, I thought I would talk about awe and wonder, and a little bit about, because my topic is on neuroscience, a little bit about the neuroscience of awe and wonder. And I will try and go through some of the, whatever little is known. I mean, this is not a subject on which there has been a lot of work, so my talk is going to be a lot more speculative than yours, which was filled with a lot of research. And a lot of it is, and most of it is not work that we have done. But then I thought it would be good to open up speculation into an area which is probably very, very important. What is awe? Awe is a self-transcendent emotion, something that allows the person to move out of his or her perception of self and connect with a larger, a sense of a greater vastness, wonder, etc. And it is often triggered by experiences which are perceived as grand, sublime, or beyond understanding. It actually involves the person feeling rather small against the larger, canvas of the universe. And it creates a cognitive accommodation where existing mental models have to expand to take that newer reality in. And it's physiologically marked by major changes. Now, initially, when psychologists started working on emotions, they actually recognized very few emotions. In fact, Paul Ekman, who died a week back, recognized 6 basic emotions. But subsequently, the work on emotions has expanded, and once ignored, the positive emotions have come into play. I mean, unfortunately, what we tend to do, and we tend to do as a profession, is that we focus on the negative. We focus, when we talk about people's being, we focus again on the psychopathology, and we do not focus on things which are sub-threshold, or on things like happiness, etc., which, of course, to be fair, people have started talking about positive psychology lately. But what are the key features of awe? It's about vastness. It's about encompassing. It's about understanding vastness. It's a need to accommodate the new. So your mind has to stretch. And it's a sense of connection, a feeling of unity with other people, with nature, or something larger than oneself. This is a picture that, I was coming back from a conference in Gangtok, and suddenly the taxi driver stopped and said, look. And, this was a magical moment. And you saw the Kanchenjunga as the Kanchenjunga, the golden, the mountain. So there are common sources of awe, and these are natural phenomena, night sky, mountains, oceans. You have artistic experiences that Shantala was talking about. For example, this very well-known phenomenon of, you're talking about what is called a frisson. When you're listening to music, you just shiver, or you see something, and you just, give a sense of, it's a ineffable or a indescribable sensation. It is also a spiritual or a transcendent moment. And things like scientific discoveries, cosmic knowledge, but even witnessing individual acts of human excellence or moral courage set up this experience of awe. You really don't, and this is a quotation from this guy in Harvard who has been working a lot in awe. He says you don't need remarkable circumstances to encounter awe. Sometimes just seeing the light and shade, filtering from the leaves can set up a moment of awe. Most commonly, other people engaging in regular acts of courage often, set up a feeling of awe. Inspiring stories in literature, poetry, film, art, and news also do that. But what is known about the neurophysiology of awe? It's associated with processes which are known to benefit mental and physical health. It is known to enhance cognitive flexibility and openness, better stress recovery and emotional regulation. Increased goose tingles, like I talked about, but also it increases the vagal tone and reduces the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. It increases oxytocin. You were talking about oxytocin and reduced stress hormones and amygdala activity. But it also most robustly predicts lowered inflammation. And it's associated with reduced activation in the default mode network. I'll spend a little bit of time on this. You are all aware of the default mode network, and it is an intrinsic system basically of areas in the brain which talk to each other and specializes in internally oriented cognitive processing. It is involved in daydreaming, remembering the future, planning, etc. And the integration over long time scales actually provides space for negotiating a shared neural code, a shared language, so to speak, which is necessary for establishing shared meaning between humans, and shared communication tools, narratives, and above all, the shared business that we have in developing communities and social networks. The default mode network has been implicated in mental health. I'm not going to go into that, but awe seems to downregulate the activity of the default mode network. It reduces focus on the self and autobiographical thinking, and there's a shift from the inward narrative to an immersive experience. You immerse yourself with a larger whole. How does awe suppress the DMN? There are many hypotheses, and a lot of this work is in its infancy. But suffice it to say, this is the dominant theory that when you have a moment of awe, when you have a moment of wonderment, it reduces, it quietens down your default mode network. There are individual differences. Some people are more capable of awe than other people, and these are usually people who have higher trait absorption, a tendency to become immersed, lower baseline rumination, etc. And usually, people with a higher baseline default mode network activity may benefit most therapeutically from experiencing periods of awe. Now, how does awe enhance mental and physical illness? Just to summarize the literature that is out there, through shifts in neurophysiology, through transformation of the sense of self, through enhanced prosociality, and through the sense of being integrated into strong social networks, and most importantly, through elevating the individual's sense of meaning. Now, when I started my journey in the neurosciences, these were soft sciences. These were things that people were not supposed to talk about, sense of self. These are touchy-feely things. But, over the years, it's becoming more and more of, hard science. Awe during childhood is most important. And the default mode network is still developing, and it shapes the early models of self. And the default mode network connects and becomes more stronger throughout adolescence. And this is the work that we actually do through our cohort, which is a cohort of about 15,000 young people across India, who we are tracking from -6 months, that is the second trimester pregnancy, into 30 years. And we find that there is a defined trajectory through which this kind of thing happens, and deviation from these trajectories are linked to, or are providing signals that they may provide signals that predict propensity to develop problems later on. Or during adolescence, this is the time when heightened self-focus, adolescents are most known for, focusing on themselves, and meets the capacity for transcendence. And these are things which are happening at the same time, and this is a very important period. As you realize, I'm skipping, and I'm not really going into details. I'm happy to go into details, but just jumping a little bit. Or, again, in later adulthood and in later life, has a slightly different meaning. During aging, the default mode network becomes less cohesive, but that doesn't mean that we are not capable of awe and feeling of integration with the universe. And throughout age, rather throughout the whole trajectory of development, there are continued benefits vis-a-vis stress regulation, well-being, etc., etc. Art has always been a driver of awe. And throughout human history, this has been a profound source of awe, from cave paintings, whether it's in Bhimbetka or to Van Gogh's swirling sky, through, numinous expressions of music. Art transcends language and cultural boundaries to evoke powerful emotional responses. Why does art move us so deeply? This, by the way, is a performance of the Cirque du Soleil that I was, very lucky to see in Prague a few months back. And this is a group which melds, brings together circus performance with artistry, with narrative skills, etc., etc. And you sit there and your jaw just drops. How does art evoke awe? It transcends the familiar and the predictable, and changes what you know to be true into something which gives you a deeper meaning. It engages multiple senses simultaneously and presents a complexity that has to be accommodated. You have to accommodate. Your mind has to move to be able to accommodate the change in the framework of your reality. It creates flow states of absorption and attention. There's this whole science of neuroaesthetics. I'm not going to go into the science of neuroaesthetics. I see Professor Brijbhushan sitting there, and he knows a lot more about neuroaesthetics than I ever will. But this is basically the science of how art impacts on the brain, how the brain perceives artistic experience, etc., etc. This, by the way, is a picture of Jatra in Bengal. Again, really awe-inspiring. And one of my friends from outside the country was very, very entranced by the fact that it took a person who had just been stabbed on stage 25 minutes, to die, during which he gave an entire soliloquy. So anyway, as you can see, I'm personally relating to these things. So, aesthetically moving art significantly releases the default mode network. And art and neuroplasticity in childhood is very well known, and this is what Shantala was talking about. Art-rich experiences support the brain development through novelty, through multisensory engagement, improve visuospatial skills, and motor cognitive integration. And it is a tragedy that art education has disappeared from our schools. It is a tragedy that it has been supplanted by the necessity to actually only do lessons. Music training and brain growth. I'm not going to go into details because Shantala has already covered a lot of that. Suffice it to say, this is my reminiscence from Trinka's OP. This is in New York, Calcutta, where people belt out music while people are eating. So it's a multi-sensory experience. Visual art and cognitive development is a very important component, and drawing engages the visual cortex, motor cortex, and other planning regions. It improves problem solving, etc., etc. But then, while I might make a case for drawing, Shantala will make a case for music, somebody will make a case for the plastic arts, and I think we need to be Catholic in this sense. Art, as you are and everybody is going to talk about, is a very important massager of emotional regulation and social development. Art in early childhood, I'll spend a little bit of time on, because that's the part that I'm really, really interested in. Open-ended creative play is really critical for development. And sensory exploration actually lends itself to multisensory brain integration, fine motor skills are developed, and this is the foundation for a lifelong ability for openness and creativity. And it is not possible to underscore it more that this needs to be a very important factor of developmental experience. Art during adolescence, again, is very important in the same way that I was talking about awe during adolescence. And art across the adult lifespan, therefore, is something that needs to be part and parcel of our journey across life. And for example, there's been a lot of work which have shown that even people who have developed dementia, when taken to the museum, are able to actually come out of their usual cognitive slippage and talk about the fact, I remember very clearly what one of the groups who are working in this told me. They said that we took this group of people who otherwise were fairly suffering from fairly significant dementia, and one old lady just came up and said, I saw this picture of this woman who had a bent face and had a flower behind her. She was actually describing Matisse's painting, but she was able to relate to it through, a different description than people would have normally given it. But she was able to relate, and her relational abilities were switched on by the fact that Matisse painted this thing in a slightly different way. Is awe disappearing? This is a question that I thought I would pose before you, and this is actually a picture that I drew where I remembered my experiences as a young person working with my father on developing. Nobody develops photographs these days, but the magic of an image transpiring from nowhere onto a white sheet of paper, slowly coming up, is a frisson-inducing, awe-inducing experience, which still creates a frisson in my 66-year-old brain. And therefore, I worry that our cultural and environmental shifts are reducing exposure to awe. And reduced time in the wild, in nature. Nature doesn't exist anyway. Unstructured outdoor play. Schools don't have playgrounds. Algorithmic curation, creating predictable information streams. Half of you are on phones right now, following some, algorithmic rabbit hole. Most of us, slightly older people, are up till about 12, midnight, 1 o'clock, following, Facebook rabbit holes. Screen time replacing immersive sensory experience, and our generally controlled urban environments versus unpredictable natural environments. I mean, I'm not saying that we can do away with this. I'm not saying that you can do away with the cell phone. But as you know, in Australia or in Norway, I think, they have mandated that adolescents, till the age of 13, I think, are not going to be given untrammeled use of cell phones. I mean, how you do it, I don't know, but then what are the likely consequences of mental health? Chronic awe deprivation may contribute to increased rumination and self-focused anxiety, higher depression rates, especially in youth, reduced capacity to regulate negative emotions, social isolation, etc. It's not unremarkable that the word of the year by the Oxford Dictionary is rage bait. You know what rage bait is? Rage bait is defined as online content which is deliberately designed to elicit anger, outrage, and reflects significant trend in our digital culture where provocative content is used to increase engagement and traffic. This is the word for 2025. This is one of the most popular words for 2025. What was the word of the year for 2024? It was brain rot. So the likely consequences are again cognitive rigidity, etc., etc. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail, but just to raise in your head that this is something that will have consequences. It will have neural consequences of awe and loss. How do we reclaim it back? Reclaiming awe and wonder will require cultivating awe in children. How do we get children to find unstructured nature time, unhurried, sensory-rich environments? How do we get them to be to involve in immersive arts, including theatre, which I actually call a multi-sensory massage for the brain? How do we get them to do stargazing, have conversations about the big questions in life? Reclaiming awe, even adults need to cultivate awe. And the same things that are important for young people are also important for adults. It has educational and policy implications. I'm not really going into details, again, as I said, but we need to be able to work with the authorities to integrate robust arts education into school curricula, to protect the possibility of outdoor play, to reduce algorithm-driven screen time, build public art spaces, build green environments, and generally work with educators to facilitate this. Awe is really a developmental nutrient. They are not luxuries. They are essential for cognitive flexibility and resilience, emotional well-being, social connection, meaning-making across the lifetime. I think I've generally made my point. This is again pictures from the Cirque du Soleil performance. I'll leave you with, some things that I remember from my child which still cause awe. And this is a festival which used to be held near my home, which was the Festival of Charak, where, it was crazy. People used to put hooks into their back and be spun around it. They still do it in rural Bengal. But this was near the city of Calcutta. And there is this puppet made out of a palm leaf. And it's very basic, but in my mind, that still ranks as something which caused a whole lot of awe because, the thing would keep moving, it would keep flicking, and the light would flicker through it. And of course, so I leave you with some of my childhood moments of awe. Thank you very much.
Just I cannot, I have to make a comment regarding how can we have awe. Like when we first saw the sea, so from 2 miles, I was really in awe, so blue and other things. And when I took my family and my son to the sea first time, and it made no impression on him. So that was, I was worried. Then I thought that because he has seen all these things on TV different many times and in much better color than the in real sense. So that was the reason that for him it is not new, and so no awe is there. So however children can have this awe, he has posed a very kind of pertinent questions. Before that, after this, we have 3-4 minutes. So both the presentation have been very really awe-inspiring, and so 2 or 3 comments we can take.
May I?
Yes, please.
Allowed?
Please.
Thank you very much, Professor Benegal, for presenting this, which is all about the neuroscience of this conference, not only awe. This conference is, now I can say, I have got the right kind of word. This conference is all about reclaiming and preserving the sense of awe in psychiatrists first, psychologists first, because they are losing very fast in the era of AI. Thank you very much. Now we have scientific basis, friends. Keep it in your mind and carry it in your heart and to society. Thank you.
And may I add, Dr. Benegal, what I was thinking is that what we should be inculcating, we've forgotten to uncover or see the awe in everyday life. There's so many small, I was reminded of a movie by Satyajit Ray. I mean, I don't know how many younger people have seen it, Pathir Panchali. And there's one sequence there when monsoon comes. He's captured it, yes. The monsoon wind and the banana leaves and they get uncurled. And that is the feeling of awe. So feeling of awe can be in small little things, and that is what we need to inculcate. Yeah.
Dr. Ramakrishnan and Dr. Kalpana, last 2.
Sir, I have got 3 questions. One is, I have got good association with artists from a culturally rich Tamil Nadu. Many artists are addicted to alcohol. They say alcohol enhances the performance and they are disinhibited and they do art much better. And many people in arts group, they have either mood disorder or paranoia. Either it is cause or effect. Yesterday we had a discussion about expressing yourself, your depression through poem. But many people, we find artists are all, many people are in a sad mood or depressed. Can I explain? Thank you.
Long time to do that. Dr. Vinay is the best person to explain that. See, what really happens is creativity often is greater. It's been observed to be greater when your executive skills are slightly lower. Dr. Vinay, this is the question that you and I have been talking about. He asked, does drinking make you more creative? Or does sleepiness or does, not paying attention make you more creative? Which is what we basically talked about. And so basically when your executive function is not on the job like a sentry, any state like that makes you more, makes you more creative. So whether it is when you are sleepy, whether when you are depressed, or when you are intoxicated. So these states have been associated with your ability to think out of the box, which does not mean that you should ever advocate that people should get drunk to get creative, because it actually takes away the performance.
So if I may add, in fact, there's a lot of research happening on artists, musicians, to understand that their levels of anxiety and depression may be high. One is, as we say, art is helpful, no doubt. But for an artist, we must remember that it is a task. It's just like, for a student, studying something is stressful because there's an outcome related to it. How we look at stress is basically how we examine, right? So there are studies being done on professional musicians as to how their art can be stressful. So for them, musicians, music may not be de-stressing. It means something else that they need to de-stress themselves. I can tell you in my own case, because sometimes you want to just reach that goal. Then it can't be, music cannot be relaxing. Music is a goal. Music is an achievement that you have to, one. That is one. Second is, when you are going into the manodharma or the creative space, you have to lose the sense of self. There has to be what we were talking about of the DMN activation, the lowering of the prefrontal activity, because I shouldn't be thinking too much to go into my creative space. Every artist will lose that sense of self. So much of practice would have happened, and then you take off into that creative space, which you need to keep achieving more and more. And sometimes in the real life, it's very hard to go into that space. So drugs and alcohol give that thing to those artists that you can lose the sense of self, and you can back on your practice knowledge that is there, your skills, and you put it on stage. This happens so often that it becomes a vicious cycle. You are supposed to do that naturally. For artists, you need to go into that sense of loss of self. That's what I mentioned. But if it doesn't happen, people rely on such things. And of course, there are certain music, certain things which enhances the experience of the substance itself. So if you look at youngsters, they listen to certain types of compositions like reggae, there are different genres that gives a different high for people when they are actually consuming certain substances, which does not happen otherwise. So it's like a cocktail of auditory stimulation with the biological thing. Yeah. There's a lot of studies done on musicians, sir.
I am just complimenting such a beautiful presentation. And one thing which I wanted to say is that when you're talking about awe, you're also talking about exploring the specificity, which is creativity, specificity. The creativity and specificity. Probably that is one thing which is generalized and being lost in the common thinking space. So very nicely she said this losing sense of self and accomplishment. It appears to be a little contradictory when you look at the surface value, but the deep value, it connects well. So congratulations for such a beautiful talk.
Thanks for a wonderful session. I would like to request Dr. Vinay Kumar sir to give away the mementos to the speakers, Dr. Vivek Benegal and Dr. Shantala Hegde. Dr. Shantala Hegde. Dr. Shantala Hegde. I would request Dr. Vinay Kumar to felicitate Dr. Gulbahar Sidhu and Dr. O.P. Singh.